The Nightmare Maestro invites you to witness a tale of chaos and terror that unfolded on the busiest shopping day of the year. Picture a Walmart superstore, its vast aisles soon to be filled with eager bargain hunters, unaware of the horror that awaits them. As the clock ticks towards midnight, a small group of employees prepares for the impending onslaught, their nervous energy palpable in the fluorescent-lit air. Store manager Brittany Matthews surveys the sales floor, her experienced eyes scanning for potential hazards. She's weathered her fair share of Black Fridays, but something about tonight feels different. The air is thick with anticipation, and Brittany can't shake the feeling that they're woefully unprepared for what's to come. At the customer service desk, Tom, a seasoned cashier, checks his watch for the 100th time. He's seen the crowds grow larger and more aggressive with each passing year. The memory of last Black Friday's trampling incident still haunts him, a constant reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control. Near the electronics section, new hire Kayla fidgets nervously with her name tag. It's her first Black Friday, and the stories she's heard from her coworkers have left her on edge. She wonders if she's made a terrible mistake in agreeing to work tonight. As the final minutes tick away, the employees take their positions. Outside, the parking lot fills with cars, their headlights cutting through the darkness like predatory eyes. The crowd grows restless, pressing against the glass doors, their breath fogging the windows. Brittany takes a deep breath, steeling herself for the chaos to come. Little do they know, forces beyond their control are already in motion. In the shadows of the loading dock, unseen figures make final preparations for a plan months in the making. As the clock strikes midnight, the doors will open, unleashing a tide of humanity that will push the store and its employees to their breaking point. The clock strikes midnight, and the doors slide open with a pneumatic hiss. The crowd surges forward, a human tsunami crashing through the entrance. Brittany and her team brace themselves as the first wave of shoppers pours in. Their faces a mix of determination and frenzied excitement. The carefully organized displays are quickly overwhelmed. Stacks of discounted electronics topple as eager hands grab at boxes. The orderly queues disintegrate into a chaotic free-for-all. Tom watches in dismay as years of Black Friday experience prove useless in the face of this unprecedented mob. Kayla finds herself swept along by the crowd, struggling to maintain her footing. The press of bodies is suffocating, the cacophony of voices overwhelming. She catches glimpses of her co-workers, islands in a sea of unfamiliar faces, each looking as lost and overwhelmed as she feels. As the night wears on, the initial excitement gives way to something darker. Tempers flare over limited stock items. Shoving matches break out in the toy aisles. Brittany and her team rush from flashpoint to flashpoint, trying desperately to maintain order. In the security office, guard Bradley Reynolds watches the CCTV feeds with growing alarm. He's seen Black Friday crowds before, but never like this. The sheer number of people crammed into the store sets off warning bells in his mind. He radios Brittany, his voice tense as he reports dangerously overcrowded aisles and blocked emergency exits. Unnoticed amidst the chaos, a group of figures moves with purpose through the back corridors of the store. They pause at key junctions, placing small devices in hidden corners. Their leader checks his watch, a cold smile playing across his lips. Everything is proceeding according to plan. As the night reaches its frenzied peak, the air in the store grows thick and oppressive. The ventilation system struggles to cope with the heat generated by thousands of bodies. Sweat-slicked faces shine under the harsh fluorescent lights. The atmosphere is primed, a powder keg, waiting for a spark. Without warning, the lights flicker and die. The store is plunged into absolute darkness, broken only by the dim glow of emergency exit signs. For a moment, there's stunned silence. Then, panic erupts. Screams pierce the air as fear takes hold. The crowd surges, blind and terrified, crashing into displays and each other. Brittany's voice cuts through the chaos, calling for calm, but her words are lost in the growing pandemonium. In the impenetrable blackness, Kayla clings to a shelf, her heart pounding. She can hear the sounds of struggle all around her, the crash of falling merchandise, the cries of those trapped or trampled. She wants to help, but she's frozen in place, overwhelmed by the sensory deprivation. Tom fumbles for his phone, activating its flashlight. The weak beam illuminates a scene of nightmare, a sea of frightened faces, eyes wide with terror. He tries to guide people towards the exits, but the crowd is beyond reason, pushing and shoving in their desperation to escape. Bradley attempts to restore power from the security office, but nothing responds. Emergency systems that should have kicked in remain stubbornly offline. With growing dread, he realizes that this is no ordinary power failure. Someone has deliberately cut them off from the outside world. Brittany fights her way through the darkness, trying to reach the main circuit breakers. She stumbles over unseen obstacles, the cries of panicked shoppers all around her. As she nears the electrical room, a hand grabs her arm. She whirls, ready to defend herself, only to find Tom, his face pale in the glow of his phone. "The doors won't open," he gasps. "We're locked in." The realization hits Brittany like a physical blow. Thousands of people trapped in darkness with no way out. As the first sounds of breaking glass reach her ears, she knows that the real nightmare is only beginning. Hours crawl by in the darkness. The initial panic has given way to a tense, uneasy quiet, broken by occasional outbursts of violence or hysteria. Brittany and her team work tirelessly, using their limited resources to maintain some semblance of order. They've managed to establish a few islands of relative calm, areas lit by the glow of dozens of cell phone flashlights. Here, the more level-headed customers huddled together, sharing what little information they have. Rumors spread like wildfire. Everything from terrorist attacks to government experiments gone wrong. In the electronics section, Kayla has taken charge of a group of elderly shoppers, doing her best to keep them calm and comfortable. She's surprised by her own strength in the face of crisis, drawing on reserves she never knew she had. Tom moves through the darkened aisles, his years of experience guiding him as he navigates the cluttered floor. He distributes water and snacks from the grocery section, knowing that dehydration and low blood sugar will only make the situation worse. Bradley has abandoned the useless security office, joining Brittany in her efforts to maintain control. They've organized a team to guard the pharmacy, preventing looters from accessing dangerous medications. It's a grim reminder of how quickly civilized behavior can erode in the face of fear and uncertainty. As dawn approaches, the atmosphere in the store grows increasingly tense. The air is stifling, thick with the smell of sweat and fear. Tempers flare more frequently as exhaustion and claustrophobia take their toll. Brittany knows they're sitting on a powder keg. One spark could set off a riot that would be impossible to control. Unbeknownst to the trapped shoppers and staff, the true architects of their nightmare move silently through the chaos. Taking advantage of the darkness and confusion, they methodically work their way through the store. Their true purpose, hidden beneath the veneer of panic they've so carefully cultivated. As the first faint light of dawn filters through the skylights, the situation reaches a critical juncture. The prolonged confinement and lack of information have pushed many to their breaking point. A group of young men, fueled by fear and bravado, begins smashing windows in a desperate attempt to escape. Brittany rushes to intervene, knowing that if they succeed, the resulting stampede could be deadly. She pleads with them, trying to make them understand the danger, but her words fall on deaf ears. As she watches in horror, one of the men hefts a fire extinguisher, ready to hurl it through the glass. Suddenly, Kayla's voice rings out, clear and commanding. She steps forward, placing herself between the window and the would-be escapees. With a courage that surprises even her, she begins to speak, her words cutting through the tension. "Look around you," she says, her voice trembling but determined. "We're all scared. We're all trapped. But if we turn on each other now, people will die. Is that what you want? To have blood on your hands?" Her words seem to penetrate the fog of panic. The man with the fire extinguisher lowers it slowly, the fight draining out of him. For a moment, it seems as though sanity might prevail. Then, without warning, a deafening explosion rocks the building. The floor shakes, and a wave of heat washes over them. Screams erupt anew as smoke begins to fill the air. In the distance, they can hear the crackle of flames. As chaos erupts once more, Brittany catches a glimpse of movement in her peripheral vision. A group of figures, faces obscured by masks, slip out of a back room. One of them carries a bulging duffel bag. With dawning horror, Brittany realizes the truth. The blackout, the panic. It was all a cover for something far more sinister. Among the fleeing figures, she recognizes the gait of Albert Foster, a longtime employee who had recently been passed over for promotion. His resentment had been palpable for weeks, but Brittany never imagined it would lead to this. The realization that someone she trusted could be involved twists like a knife in her gut. Before she can act on this revelation, a second explosion sends a shower of debris raining down. In the ensuing pandemonium, Brittany loses sight of the mysterious figures. As she struggles to regain control of the situation, one thought echoes in her mind. They're not just fighting for survival now. They're in a race against time to uncover the truth. Behind this nightmare, thick smoke billows through the store, reducing visibility to mere feet. The acrid smell burns in Brittany's nostrils as she fights to maintain control of the situation. Emergency sprinklers activate, their cold spray adding to the confusion. Wet and terrified, people stumble through the haze, coughing and calling out for loved ones. Tom takes charge of guiding a group towards the nearest exit, his voice hoarse from shouting instructions. The doors remain stubbornly locked, but he knows they have to try. As they near the entrance, a flash of movement catches his eye. Through a gap in the smoke, he spots a figure in dark clothing slipping out through a previously hidden side door. Torn between his duty to the group and his curiosity, Tom makes a split-second decision. He quickly delegates leadership to a level-headed customer and follows the mysterious figure. The side door leads to a narrow corridor he's never seen before, despite his years working at the store. Meanwhile, Kayla and Bradley work together to create a makeshift triage area for those overcome by smoke or injured in the panic. Kayla's earlier bout of courage has given her a newfound sense of purpose. She moves efficiently, comforting the injured and directing those still able-bodied to help others. Bradley, drawing on his security training, keeps a watchful eye on their surroundings. Something about the explosions doesn't sit right with him. The pattern seems too deliberate, almost as if they were meant to cause panic rather than real damage. As if confirming his suspicions, the fire alarms suddenly cut out, plunging the store into an eerie silence broken only by coughs and whimpers. The sprinklers sputter and stop. In the quiet, Bradley hears something that turns his blood cold. The rhythmic beeping of what can only be a bomb timer. Across the store, Brittany has managed to reach the manager's office. The backup generator has failed, but her old laptop, running on battery power, still functions. She quickly accesses the store's security system, hoping to override the lockdown. As she works, a notification pops up on the screen. It's an automated alert from the bank. A massive transfer has just been initiated from the store's accounts. With growing horror, Brittany realizes the true nature of the nightmare they've been living through. This was never about Black Friday chaos. It was an elaborate heist. Just then, she notices a flashing icon on her desktop. It's a video file, uploaded mere hours before the chaos began. Her hands shaking, Brittany clicks play. The store owner's face fills the screen, his expression a mix of desperation and determination. Brittany, if you're seeing this, then our plan has already been set in motion, he begins. I know you'll never understand, but the company is drowning in debt. The board was going to announce layoffs next week. Thousands would lose their jobs. This way, the insurance payout will cover the losses and no one gets hurt. At least that was the plan. Before Brittany can process this shocking revelation, the office door bursts open. A masked figure stands in the doorway, gun pointed squarely at Brittany's chest. Behind him, she can see more armed individuals herding a group of hostages. The leader steps forward, his eyes cold behind his mask. I'm afraid we can't let you interfere with our plans, he says, his voice chillingly calm. You've all played your parts beautifully, but now it's time for the final act. As the armed intruders consolidate their hostages, a tense standoff develops. Brittany, now held at gunpoint, frantically tries to think of a way out of this nightmare. She catches glimpses of Kayla and Bradley among the hostages, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. Tom, having followed the hidden corridor, finds himself in a makeshift command center filled with sophisticated equipment. Screens display security camera feeds from throughout the store, while others show complex financial data. It's clear that this operation has been meticulously planned. Before he can fully process what he's seeing, Tom hears footsteps approaching. He quickly ducks behind a stack of servers, his heart pounding. Through a gap, he watches as two of the masked individuals enter, engrossed in conversation. The transfer's almost complete, one says, removing his mask, to reveal a face Tom recognizes with a jolt. It's the district manager who'd visited last week to inspect the store's security systems. Good, the other replies, his voice familiar as well. Once we have confirmation, we trigger the smoke bombs in the loading bay. That'll cover our escape while the police are dealing with the hostage situation out front. As they continue discussing their plan, Tom realizes he may be the only one who can stop them. With shaking hands, he pulls out his phone, praying for a signal. To his relief, a single bar flickers to life. Whatever was jamming communications doesn't reach this far into the building. Back in the main store, the situation grows increasingly tense. The leader of the intruders, growing impatient, threatens to start shooting hostages if his demands aren't met. Brittany, her mind racing, realizes she needs to buy time. You won't get away with this, she says, injecting as much confidence into her voice as she can muster. The authorities must be on their way by now. The leader laughs, a cold, mirthless sound. Oh, they are. But they'll be too busy dealing with the terrorist attack we've staged to realize what's really happening until it's far too late. As he speaks, Brittany notices something odd. Despite the chaos, the smoke, and the hours of panic, the leader's uniform is immaculate. A terrible suspicion begins to form in her mind. In the group of hostages, an elderly woman named Martha, who had come to the store looking for a gift for her grandson, locks eyes with Brittany. Martha gives an almost imperceptible nod, her years of experience as a retired school teacher allowing her to read the room. She understands that a distraction is needed. Martha suddenly clutches her chest, crying out in apparent pain. "My heart! I think I'm having a heart attack!" The performance is convincing enough to momentarily draw the attention of the gunmen. Seizing the opportunity, Bradley makes his move. He manages to disarm one of the gunmen, while Kayla, inspired by Brittany's earlier display of leadership, grabs the fallen weapon. The tables turn quickly. The hostages, emboldened by Bradley and Kayla's actions, begin to overwhelm their captors. A young college student named Alex, who had been quietly observing the gunmen's movements, shouts directions to the other hostages, helping to coordinate their efforts. In the confusion, Brittany makes a lunge for the leader, managing to rip off his mask. The face revealed belongs to the store's owner, a man Brittany has worked alongside for years. The betrayal stings, but there's no time for shock. "Why?" Brittany demands, her voice barely above a whisper. The owner's face crumples, the weight of his actions finally sinking in. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he says, his voice breaking. "The debt, the layoffs coming. I thought I could save everyone's jobs, but Albert and the others, they had their own plans. It all spiraled out of control." As sirens begin to wail in the distance, the sound of approaching helicopters fills the air. Suddenly, the lights flicker back to life. The doors unlock with a loud click. Tom's voice comes over the store's PA system, shaky but determined. "It's over. The police have been notified of the real situation. They're on their way." As law enforcement swarms the building, the full scope of the operation comes to light. The heist was a cover for a massive embezzlement scheme, using the chaos of Black Friday and the staged emergency to mask the electronic transfer of funds. In the aftermath, as shell-shocked customers and employees give their statements, Brittany reflects on the night's events. The darkness had brought out the worst in some, but it had also revealed unexpected courage and resilience in others. As the first rays of sunlight finally penetrate the store, Brittany knows that none of them will ever look at Black Friday the same way again. The Nightmare Maestro's tale serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly order can descend into chaos, and how the greatest threats often lurk where we least expect them. Subscribe for more chilling tales from the Nightmare Maestro.